Back with us now, Congressman Brian Mast of House Foreign Affairs. Congressman, now the stories are coming out. First, let's deal with this. Text messages surfacing between soldiers and troops in Afghanistan. Soldiers texting each other saying they were shocked to be abandoning American citizens. The texts were reported by John Solomon that Americans were waving passports at the Kabul airport saying we're Americans, but they were blocked from leaving. Those flights left empty. What do you say to this story?
We've said it over and over and over again. As soldiers, it's part of what's sewn into us. We don't leave our men behind. We don't leave our men behind. And I've literally heard nothing weighing more greatly on the shoulders of our soldiers that speak to me personally, that are calling me, that I see in person, than the belief and the understanding that both Americans and those that we were directly in combat with shoulder to shoulder were left behind.
The political reporting, White House officials are now leaking, saying that they are, quote, appalled, that they're upset, that they're horrified that the White House abandoned people, Americans, behind terrorist lines. Now, let's turn to this. Senator Lindsey Graham, Foreign Affairs Ranking Member Representative Michael McCaul, Congressman Ronnie Jackson, now say the number of Americans left behind is much higher. It's not hundreds, it could be thousands. And when you look at the math, Congressman, the math is kind of curious here. I mean, 2 weeks ago, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and the Pentagon spokesman were saying 10,000, 15,000 U.S. Americans stranded. If you subtract the 6,000 that were evacuated, we're talking potentially thousands still stranded. What do you say?
Yeah, I think you look at the math exactly as many of us have been asking, saying you gave these numbers, you told us you've flown out these numbers. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that there's a pretty big gap there that's not being answered about. And this goes to the point that so many of us have been saying. Every single time the administration steps up to the microphone, they are feeding us a lie. That's what they are doing. When President Biden says, let me be clear, that's an indication that he's about to tell the American people some kind of lie. It's happened over and over and over again. There's a lot of the speculation by many that say, this president must have dementia or something. That might have something to do with the math. But I think if you go back and look at press conference after press conference and the way that he keeps changing the story, I think it's more likely this guy's schizophrenic.
Yeah. And Congressman, on August 22nd, just 9 days ago, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said on CNN, quote, several thousand Americans were left there. That, we also left behind U.S.-funded government-backed journalists for Voice of America, Radio Liberty, and Radio Free Europe have been stranded behind terror lines. Dozens of Sacramento students now in Afghanistan stranded. Let's listen to this exchange. We know that the president yesterday saying 10% of Americans were left behind. White House racing to dial back on that. We have a curious kind of talking point problem, Congressman, with the White House officials stepping on each other's lines. Watch this exchange.
We have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time.
I think it's irresponsible to say Americans are stranded. They are not.
What do you say to that?
One, this is no joke. These people will be hung. They will be tortured. They will be stabbed. They will be choked by electrical wires. They will be stoned. This is as serious as it gets. And when you look at their inability to one, assess the situation, and to, number two, convey it truthfully, the absence of leadership right there is exactly what got us into this situation. We've all heard the saying, peace through strength. And that's what led us into a situation where we were down to 2,500 U.S. troops in Afghanistan without anybody being killed for a year and a half, to a situation where there is now no peace because there was absolutely no strength. They've been intimidated from beginning to end, from the time that they're leaving, to leaving the embassy, to leaving the airbase, to everything else about it, instead of simply being Americans and saying, we're going to do it when and how and why we choose, and you're going to suck it up and take it because we swing the bigger bat. That's the problem that got us into this situation and why they're stuck there in Afghanistan.
Congressman Brian Mast, thanks for joining us, and thank you for your service to our country. It's good to have you on.